Shouldn't happiness and fulfillment be the reward for a well-lived life? Why then, despite our best efforts, are so many men left feeling empty and unfulfilled in later life? You've played by the rules, you've worked hard, sacrificed, earned your success. From the outside, some might even think you have it all. But underneath, there's a silent struggle brewing, a sense of emptiness, or a feeling that something's missing. But what if that pain you're feeling isn't something that's wrong with you, but an invitation to expand, to delve deeper, turn your focus inwards and towards what really matters to you? Maybe it's time to break free of a life that you're outgrowing and towards a new definition of success. One that's aligned to your truest self and not some marketer's stock image of achievement. Join me in this video as we unravel these dark nights of confusion and towards a pathway with clarity, groundedness, and confidence. Hi, I'm Brendan, a former executive who works with high achievers to help them break through and find new and wider definitions of success. Welcome to the channel. I'm glad you're here. So part of what makes this difficult is you might not even be able to exactly say what's wrong. Often we're in a space of some vague feelings that come and go, that sort of wash over us and disappear, or just a sense of feeling directionless or not always having the energy on the day. As men, we're often inherent problem solvers, and so we go looking for understanding what's wrong and how we're going to fix it. But as we look across, we might not even find a lot that looks wrong, at least on the surface. In fact, we might tell ourselves that we have plenty to be grateful for. Maybe we're just having an off day. But the feeling returns, and it's there just often enough to know that something's up. We just can't quite put our finger on it. That message coming through, there is a pain, and pain usually wants attention in some way. If your leg was hurt, you could only walk on it for so long before you really had to do something about it. Maybe that was resting it for a little while. Maybe it is going and getting orthotics, or even seeing a doctor to understand what needs to be done for that pain to stop hurting. Some of this kind of emotional or soul pain is the same. There are many things we can do. We may brush it off, but it's persistent and it's going to keep coming back until we're ready to really face it and do some work with it. Sometimes we can decide that we're just not disciplined enough and instead see this as a problem of focus and doubling down, pushing through or slacking it up. And while that could get you some results in the short term, it really isn't going to address this challenge that you're coming across. And we need to get to the root of the actual problem if we're going to solve it. As a society, we are also really good at numbing our pain and hoping that it will go away. We might find ourselves using substances like alcohol, distracting ourselves through gaming or binge watching TV or pornography. Sometimes it's food or gambling. Anything to either keep our mind busy or otherwise self-soothe ourselves in hope again that we won't be feeling this sense of loss. We won't have that emptiness inside anymore. We can really feel that void, but we're just not sure what we're going to fill it with to be able to start to feel better again. You might wonder how we even got here. And to do that, we need to look at the whole trajectory of our lives. And if we trace back to being infants and toddlers, we lived in a world that was really all about us. We were almost 100% ego at times, and it was all about our needs being met. But as we got a little bit older and started school, we started to get tapped into social norms and the need to start behaving and sometimes conforming. Now, there's definitely some value in this. We really want to live in a society where if somebody wants your toy, they just don't go and grab it from you, or having hitting as a strategy if you're frustrated. But as we learn all of those expectations of the people around us, we have to start shaping ourselves and shaping our sense of self to meet those expectations. As we move into adolescence, this gets even more complicated. It's no longer just about the expectations and behaving to those around us. And it's often during this time when we are really starting to repress parts of ourselves. This is when we start wearing those masks to make sure that we can fit in, that we can belong, that we aren't going to be on the outside or be made fun of. And into adulthood and into our 20s, we're still shaping who we are and still looking to the external environment for some of those clues. We make decisions on the careers that we have, on our partners, on where we're going to live, on what it means to be successful. What are those external signs of achievement? Is it buying a house? Is it what you drive? Is it what you own? All of these become pieces of our identity as we shape it or with those people around us, the family beliefs that we enter into adulthood with. We are influenced by the friends that are around us. Coming into the workplace, we're now influenced by our colleagues and our bosses. And more, we're shaped by social media and that sense of comparison of often seeing others' highlight reels or curated photos that seldom demonstrate insecurity or any negative aspects of life or their personality. This is a normal pathway that all of us go through of building a sense of self. And really, it's not until we're into our 30s or 40s or 50s that that sense of self really starts to crystallize within us, that we finally understand ourselves. We've spent enough years with ourselves, had our highs and lows, ups and downs, and that strength of self really starts to emerge. And this is the moment that you may very well be in, my friend. That sense of self is now starting to push back a little bit. It is asking you to start defining life more and more on your terms. It can feel very disorienting because there's often a sense of what isn't working for you, but without a clear pathway of who you will become when you become your truest and most aligned self. That tension shows up between all that you've known, all that you believe in, and the things that have shaped your sense of self, and a deeper knowingness, a deeper self that wants to emerge. And some parts of that current belief system will need to be shaped, discarded, or replaced with new ones that are more true to you. And I know that maybe this isn't something that you asked for, but I do want you to remember the strength that sits within it. You now have a strong enough sense of self to begin pushing back on the somewhat created sense of self that was driven by others, that was given to you through a myriad of experiences growing up. And this is really that opportunity to start sorting through all of those and understand what you want to keep and what you no longer want to be part of or have in your life. And I totally get this can feel like having the rug pulled out from under you, that you're being pushed out of one place without really knowing what that next place is going to look like. And this is that moment where you start to question everything in your life and things that you took for granted. You might ask questions like, do I need to have better boundaries with somebody? Am I in a career and a relationship that fulfills me and meets my needs? What is my relationship with money? Where am I holding myself back because I worry about what other people might think or how they might react if I make a particular decision? And I know that these are really big questions and ones that you aren't going to feel like you can answer all at once. And I'm sorry to tell you, but this one isn't going to line up with a 12 Easy Steps handbook. This is work that often takes many years, that we're never really fully through. It may represent the second half of your life. But I also believe this is where the gold sits. And author James Hollis has a really great quote in this area. And he says, "In the end, we are not here to fit in, to be well-adjusted, acceptable to all, or to make our parents proud of us. We are here to be ourselves. Often that's not pretty, but it's honest. And our gift to the great mosaic of the world is our uniqueness. Each of us has something to bring to the mosaic of time that is unfolding in us and through us, whether we are aware of it or not." And I can tell you it's a path that I've walked and a journey that continues to evolve for me. I had a very successful executive career, had the title, and was making more money than I ever dreamed I could make. But something was definitely missing. There was a sense of lacking direction, and more mornings that got tougher to get out of bed. And I very much overemphasized the few weeks of vacation that I got each year. I was searching for a solution to the pain and restlessness that I felt. At times I was chasing that next career or that next promotion, And at other times, I was thinking hard and trying to use all of my cognitive horsepower to try and solve the problem. I did plenty of search across books and web and video to see if I could quite piece together what exactly was going on, but I wasn't able to find what I was looking for. Ultimately, it was both working with a coach and a somatic practitioner that happened to unlock everything for me. I started to really understand where I was and understand some of the areas where I needed to make changes, where those old belief systems were no longer serving me. And I was also able to learn the skills to be able to tap into both my emotional intelligence and my somatic body intelligence to understand more than just what was the right decision strategically, but what felt like the right decision for me and how did I know? I was able to develop a much stronger sense of intuition and gut feeling that I now trust explicitly. As I got clearer, I was able to remove from my life some of the things that were sapping my energy each decision, and as I mapped my pathway forward, I was able to better align with purpose and passion. And when you do that, you start to find new opportunities that weren't even there. And I'd say I've moved towards a vision of success that I couldn't have imagined just a few years ago. For me, that has meant having a good sense of knowingness, confidence that's come from being grounded, from knowing myself and accepting myself just as I am and just where I am. It has given me the clarity I need anytime I have a decision to make or just understanding whether I want to go for an opportunity or not. And I can tell you, you sleep so much better as you work your way through and eliminate some of the things that you get caught in those loops on, trying to solve in a cognitive way when it's really your emotions and your somatic intelligence that will guide you to the truth. So, what will your journey ahead look like? Well, that's up to you, but here's a few things that I've learned along the way. First of all, I had to learn that all of my problems couldn't be solved solely with logic and thinking and strategy. And at first, I hated that because I have realized a lot of success in my life through being able to be the smart one and the one that could put together the really complex strategy to solve that hard problem. This is what propelled me through my career, but ultimately wasn't going to allow me to find the happiness I was searching for in my life, not without adding other elements and not without bringing in my emotional intelligence and my somatic body intelligence. Where I was pleasantly surprised was a lot of this became skills learning, things that I could build on over time and get better at and get more and more tuned into myself. I didn't need to have some big cathartic breakdown or end up on the floor in a ball crying. Being able to tune into that deeper intelligence really opened up a lot of things for me. And it was one of those places of looking back and see the progress that I made, because invisibly, all of the growth and change that I was going through, I could feel gradually, but didn't realize the results until they had accumulated over a couple of months. And suddenly I realized there was less weight I was carrying on my shoulders. And some of the ideas that I was unsure about how to solve, I now had a clear path of some possibilities to pursue. I recognized that the whole topic of emotions and emotional intelligence can feel either like learning a foreign language or can create some anxiety in you. And I am right there with you. I can tell you, I often struggled in difficult conversations. I couldn't find the words to be able to even really talk about hard things. I know how much of an abstract concept it can feel like. And this is often a reason that men may not pursue therapy to do some of this work. That the idea of sitting and talking about your feelings or having them validated isn't really the work that you're looking for or the work that you feel like you'd be able to succeed at right now. Inherently, often men want something that's very action oriented and problem solving oriented. And that's why I really believe some of the learning, some of the being able to tune in through exercises over time starts to get you shifted and into a better place. So, how do you move forward in this? Well, the first thing I'm going to recommend is just going for a walk. Take 20 minutes on your own, skip the earbuds. Let's not listen to a podcast this round and just find a little bit of space for that inner dialogue to emerge. I often hear from men that that short period just before you fall asleep is when the overwhelm can come with your thoughts and that inner dialogue. This is where your self critic can show up and point out all of the things that you didn't do well or didn't get done that day. This is where you start to ask if you're doing the right things with your life. This is where some of that feeling of being lost or disconnected can really show up. And often it's because this is the only time that we've actually stopped taking external stimuli in. The rest of the time, we're busy at work, we're driving, we're listening to things, we're on our phones, we're on our computers. We tend to keep ourselves very, very busy to avoid our thoughts. And the moment that that window comes forward, those thoughts come barreling in. And so I think a walk is a really good opportunity to both do that in a way where you're still out in nature, still being able to get some balance, and using your body to manage a little bit of the energy that happens in starting to get used to those thoughts. Something similar happens if you've ever tried to meditate or learn how to meditate. The first time that you practice being in that silence, you can be flooded with just the sheer number of thoughts and how frantic the mind can be with the how often it changes direction, changes thoughts. We call it the monkey mind because it just sort of feels like it's all over the place. And those who have built a mindfulness practice will tell you what they learn over time is that ability to see all of those thoughts go racing by without really getting hooked into the drama of any of them. And this is what that work ahead starts to look like. You may need a little bit of time just to get used to what it's like to be inside your head. And it does become manageable, and that pace can slow down just as we get used to tuning into it. We're a little more in touch with it regularly, and it doesn't build quite so much. My other suggestion for you is just find a few moments in the day to check in with your body. I can tell you I was very disconnected from my body, being very cognitive and really moving from one idea to the next to the next. And it wasn't until later on, as I did somatic work, I learned, oh, there's tightness in my chest, there's restlessness in my legs. I'm kind of wanting to make fists with my hands. All of those contain messages, and the sooner you can get tapped into those messages, the more they can dissipate. In fact, there's research that says your ability to name an emotion or name what's going on for yourself actually helps it disappear faster. It helps you move through it and move on to the next thing. I know it all can feel a little bit foreign at first, and so what I want you to keep in mind is what author Carol Dweck calls the growth mindset, which really talks about your ability to learn something a little bit at a time, to build on the foundations that are there, rather than categorize yourself as a person who can or can't do something. You are able to do it, but you're not going to be able to do it all at once. And those first couple pieces might feel a little bit clunky. Give it the space, give it the time. I know you can get there. You've got this. It may not happen immediately overnight. It's going to take some time. It takes time for all of us. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not alone in your suffering. You are now being invited into the journey that so many men before you have taken and many men after you are yet to take. This is that work of finding a new self, of truly becoming the deepest adult and the deepest self that you were meant to be. Give it the time, the space, and the patience, and this pain will start to dissipate. That sense of being lost will start to find a direction, and there'll be a certain groundedness within yourself, one that I think you're going to find really reassuring, really calming, and gives you the strength to confidently make your way through the next half of your life. This is deep soul work, but I know you're going to do great things with it. And you've just taken a really important step in your learning and moving forward in this journey. You now know where you are in the map and what some of that journey may look like ahead. Know that I care about you and I'm rooting for your success. Now, go do some great work, and I'll see you next time.